2 Kings chapter 24. In his days came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Afterward he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent him bands of the Chaldeans, and bands of the Aramites, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the Ammonites. And he sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servants the prophets. Surely by the commandment of the Lord came this upon Judah, that he might put them out of his sight for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he did, and for the innocent blood that he shed. For he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, therefore the Lord would not pardon it. Concerning the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiachin his son reigned in his stead. And the king of Egypt came no more out of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken from the river Egypt unto the river Perath all that pertained to the king of Egypt. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. His mother's name also was Neshutah, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. In that time came the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, up against Jerusalem. So the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it. Then Jehoiachin, king of Judah, came out against the king of Babylon, he and his mother and his servants, and his princes and his eunuchs. And the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of his reign. And he carried out thence all the treasuries of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king's house, and brake all the vessels of gold which Solomon king of Israel had made in the temple of the Lord, as the Lord had said. And he carried away all Jerusalem, and all the princes, and all the strong men of war, even 10,000, into captivity, and all the workmen and cunning men, so none remained saving the poor people of the land. And he carried away Jehoiachin unto Babylon, and the king's mother, and the king's wives, and his eunuchs, and the mighty of the land carried he away into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. And all the men of war, even 7,000, and carpenters and locksmiths 1,000, all that were strong and apt for war, did the king of Babylon bring to Babylon captives. And the king of Babylon made Mattaniah his uncle king in his stead, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. Therefore certainly the wrath of the Lord was against Jerusalem and Judah, until he cast them out of his sight. And Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. 2 Kings chapter 25. And in the 9th year of his reign, the 10th month, the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came, he and all his host, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it. And they built forts against it round about it. So the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And the 9th day of the month, the famine was sore in the city, so that there was no bread for the people of the land. And the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled by the night, by the way of the gate, which is between 2 walls, that was by the king's garden. Now the Chaldeans were by the city round about, and the king went by the way of the wilderness. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued after the king, and took him in the deserts of Jericho, and all his host was scattered from him. Then they took the king, and carried him up to the king of Babylon in Riblah, where they gave judgment upon him. And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him in chains, and carried him to Babylon. And in the 5th month, and the 7th day of the month, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, chief steward and servant of the king of Babylon, to Jerusalem. and burnt the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and all the great houses burnt he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldeans that were with the chief steward brake down the walls of Jerusalem round about. And the rest of the people that were left in the city, and those that were fled and fallen to the king of Babylon, with the remnant of the multitude, did Nebuzaradan, chief steward, carry away captive. But the chief steward left the poor of the land to dress the vines and to till the land. Also the pillars of brass that were in the house of the Lord, and the bases, and the brazen sea that was in the house of the Lord, did the Chaldeans break, and carried the brass of them to Babylon. The pots also, and the besoms, and the instruments of music, and the incense dishes, and all the vessels of brass that they ministered in, took they away. And the ashpans, and the basins, and all that was of gold, and all that was of silver, took the chief steward away, with the 2 pillars, 1 sea, and the bases, which Solomon had made for the house of the Lord. The brass of all these vessels was without weight. The height of 1 pillar was 18 cubits, and the chapiter thereon was brass, and the height of the chapiter was with network 3 cubits, and pomegranates upon the chapiter round about, all of brass. And likewise was the 2nd pillar with a network. And the chief steward took Sariah the chief priest, and Zephaniah the 2nd priest, and 3 keepers of the door. And out of the city he took an eunuch that had oversight of the men of war, and 5 men of them that were in the king's presence, which were found in the city, and Zophar captain of the host, who mustered the people of the land, and the 60 men of the people of the land that were found in the city. And Nebuzaradan the chief steward took them and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah. And the king of Babylon smote them and slew them at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah was carried away captive out of his own land. Howbeit there remained in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon left, and made Gedaliah the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, ruler over them. Then when all the captains of the host and their men heard that the king of Babylon had made Gedaliah governor, they came to Gedaliah to Mizpah, to wit, Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, and Johanan the son of Kareah, and Zerahiah the son of Tanhumeth the Nethophite, and Jaazan the son of Maachati, they and their men. And Gedaliah sware to them and to their men, and said unto them, Fear not to be servants of the Chaldeans. Dwell in the land, and serve the king of Babylon, and ye shall be well. But in the 7th month Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, of the king's seed, came, and 10 men with him, and smote Gedaliah, and he died. And so did he the Jews and the Chaldeans that were with him in Mizpah. Then all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the army arose, and came to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. Notwithstanding, in the 37th year after Jehoiakim king of Judah was carried away, in the 12th month, and in the 27th day of the month, Evil-Merodach king of Babylon in that year that he began to reign did lift up the head of Jehoiakim king of Judah out of the prison, and spake kindly to him, and set his throne above the throne of the kings that were with him in Babylon, and changed his prison garments, and he did continually eat bread before him all the days of his life. And his portion was a continual portion given him by the king, every day a certain, all the days of his life.